Just about ready here. My neighbor is mowing, so hopefully it's not too loud in the background there. I suspect it's probably fine. This microphone is pretty good about staying where it's supposed to. Hello, here I am, I think, I assume. Let's see, yep, looks like I'm streaming. Audio looks okay. Let me just make sure I'm using the correct input on the mic. I am, yep, so I think I'm good to go. Let's see. This is section 2 of Applied Digital Studies, DGST 395, so hopefully that's who's watching. Get started here a little bit gradually. I'm kind of checking a few things as we're going here. You may have seen me earlier on Discord. I was trying something out, and as you can see from this webpage that I have pulled up here, I'm still trying to figure out the best way to do what I was trying to do, and it didn't totally work. So I don't know if it's going to work at all eventually, but my thought is, what I would like to do with this class sometimes is watch something together. Like this is something like if in a face-to-face class, I would put something up on the projector, we would watch it at the same time, talk about it afterwards. I'd like to do stuff like that for this class. But of course, if we're not face-to-face, I can't do that. What I'm trying to figure out is whether I can use Discord to stream video to you, and I believe I can. Obviously, I can also use OBS and Twitch. I mean, technically that'll work. However, I think that will run into copyright issues. So I would rather avoid that. I think, well, technically, I think the copyright issues also are there for Discord, but it's a little bit farther under the radar, so to speak. So I'm a little bit less nervous about doing it that way. And the only question is whether it actually works or not. So if you happen to see online earlier today, when I attempted that, you can kind of tell how well it worked or perhaps failed to. Apparently the audio did not come through at all, and there's some question about whether the video worked well enough. I don't know. It sounds like the frame rate wasn't quite there, so that's something else I need to check for. But as you can see in this webpage that I pulled up here, this is a tutorial for how to have a watch party with Netflix over Discord. So other people have done this, I guess, or attempted it, I guess. So perhaps we will try it. There are some things I'd like for us to look at that are on Netflix. So I guess as a last resort, I could just sort of ask everyone to get a Netflix account, but I don't want to ask you to pay for something that you might not have any other interest in or use for. So I really don't want to do that. You can sign up for a free account, like a trial account on Netflix. So there's still a way into that, maybe, but I'd rather avoid that if I can. It'd be easier to have something that we could all experience together and then just comment on it that way. So, I don't know. Hope you're all having a good afternoon, whoever's out there, whoever's watching. Looks like I got 7 viewers. Should be a few more for this section. Maybe there are, and it just hasn't updated the count. Or maybe it is just 7, and that's okay too. I'll talk to 7 people, or 10. It's up to 10 now. I'll talk to 10 people. No big deal. as long as it's at least 1, honestly, that's 1 is great because I can just talk to whoever that is, and that's great. Even if it's my mom. That was the case one time where she was the only person watching. That's okay. All right. So this is what we're going to do today, and this is what I'm going to talk about today. Let me sort of rewind it a little bit. Today I had planned to, and I am going to, introduce you to Node 1, our first major bit of content for this class. I have this prepared as a Python notebook, a Colab notebook, which is the platform I introduced you to on Wednesday. And I'm not quite done with it yet, though. I'm still tweaking it. And I want to get it pretty well done because once I give it to you and let you make copies of it, I won't be able to tweak it anymore. And so I want to make sure it's got everything in it that I can put into it to make it as strong as possible. So give me a couple more hours on that this afternoon, and I will share it with you by sometime this evening, probably. Certainly before Monday, so you'll have time to click on, you'll have access to the things that are in here anyway, but you'll have the notebook in your Google Drive and ready to work on certainly this weekend. So there's that. The other thing I wanted to mention or talk about here at the outset in terms of logistics, obviously I'm streaming right now Usually I won't be streaming on Fridays, but I am for this first week of classes, just to, because there's things to say and things to do, and it's easier to do this now as opposed to other things. But having conversations in Discord instead of Twitch is probably going to be something that we can start doing more of. So make sure you're in Discord if you're not already, right? I mean, I kind of hope you are in Discord at the moment, and ready to say hi and get started with things. Actually, let me see, is anyone there? Oh yeah, great, there is at least a couple people on there, so good, thank you. I didn't see, you were saying hi in Discord and not in Twitch. So yeah, so we'll see about the streaming thing, for example, but we'll also be using some channels in Discord to have conversations. And you might have seen this, if you're in section 2, you might have seen section 1 was really jumping in there today. And I will be directing you to jump in there similarly pretty soon. So make sure you're online, and hello, good to see you all. Good, okay, so here's the other thing I wanted to talk about logistically, which is cohorts. So I have placed you in a cohort now, and this cohort is following the response that you gave in the welcome survey in Canvas, except for, sorry, I just saw a question on Twitch. I don't understand the question, so let me get back to that. But in your responses in the responses to those surveys, you indicated a preference for which day you might be able to attend face-to-face, or you were indicating that you were not going to be attending face-to-face at all. So I put you in a cohort based on that response, and if you are going to be attending face-to-face, that cohort signifies which day you are allowed to attend face-to-face. So if you're in a Wednesday, section 2 Wednesday, then I would expect to see you on Wednesdays, but not Fridays. Unless I switch cohorts, or unless we talk about it, unless you have a really compelling reason to switch a cohort. Those are set at an upper limit. Like we can't go over 12 in that classroom, so we have to make sure we respect that. So that's why we have to split up. But also, I want you to kind of know that cohort, or think of that cohort as your kind of miniature section of this class. It's a place for you those are the people you'll see face to face, but also it's a place, they are people that you will interact with more often online. So what you'll find is we've got 50 something people in this class altogether. That's a lot, and I don't think it's reasonable or practical to have a synchronous or even an asynchronous conversation with that many people on that conversation online. So the idea of the cohorts kind of serves two purposes. First of all, it lets me organize who's going to show up when, but it also gives you a slightly smaller group of people to talk to and relate to and work on things together with in this class. So that's why I've set it up this way. And this is a group in both Discord and in Canvas. So you should be able to find your cohort in Canvas. Let me switch over to my Canvas tab and show you where to find that. I'm not going to actually click on it because I don't want to, well, no, I don't. I'm not going to take you there. But from Canvas, if you want to figure out which group you're in, you can. I think the group is here. Does this work? Yeah, I think. Well, I'm not going to click on it here because I'm trying to keep your names off of the stream. But I believe that link should take you there. Let me see. Yeah, it does. Okay, so you click on the fan icon on the home page in Canvas, or click on people in the navigation. Go to people and then groups, and then you should see that as well. And you should see all of the groups. There are 5 cohorts. You should be in one of them, and there's only one person who I haven't assigned yet, and that's because you just responded to the quiz. So thank you for doing that, and I will sort you according to whatever your response there is. But find your cohort there. There are 2 sections of the class. Each of those sections has 2 cohorts, a Wednesday and a Friday, and then everyone else I put into the online-only cohort. That online-only cohort currently has 14 students in it, which is kind of a lot, so I might end up splitting that into 2 based on section 1 and section 2 if it breaks down evenly, and I think it kind of does. So I might do that, but for now, just kind of think of the online group as a single cohort, and then there's the 2 face-to-face cohorts for each section. So it's a little confusing, that's why I wanted to explain it, but also you've got multiple ways to find it, hopefully. Now there was a question on Twitch from Kennedy. I believe you are in a cohort. I'm pretty sure I put you, if I know who this is, I'm pretty sure I put you in one. Let me just check. Oh yeah, there you are. Section 2 Friday. So you're in the Section 2 Friday cohort. So you should be in that group in Canvas. In Discord, the way it works in Discord, you actually so Discord is different from Slack. In Slack, whenever you have a workspace or a server in Slack, you can add channels within that, and those act like individual chat rooms. In Slack, you have to actually find a chat room, a channel, and join it in order to see it. But in Discord, everyone sees every channel all the time. So that's a slight difference. So you just kind of have to know which one is yours, and you can actually see all of them. It technically doesn't matter which one you participate in on Discord. The point really is just to give you slightly smaller, groups of people to talk to. It's just you should be able to find it basically if you figure out who you are supposed to be with. So once you do figure that out, go in, and it looks like someone already has done this. Go into your section, your cohort, and say hi, just to kind of start the conversation and start seeing who's there in the cohort with you. And I saw, let's see, a couple questions in Discord. Let me see. Okay, so Kenneth, you just joined Discord. Great. I guess you weren't already in there. I thought I saw you in there before, but anyway, you're here now, so good. Hello and welcome. So, so you should be able to see all of your channels there. And for that person who just said that they just finished the quiz, again, I'm trying to avoid naming. Well, I'll just say Hum. So Hum, yes, that's fine. You can join that cohort. I haven't sorted you in a group yet in Canvas, but I will do what you requested just now. That's fine. Okay, good. So, and you can see that there's already, like in the online only cohort, there's already people that have been having a conversation there already in Section 1. So that's where, maybe it would make sense to split this into 2 cohorts, but don't worry about it for now. Okay, if you have any questions about finding your cohort or which cohort you're in, let me know. Also, if you see anything wrong with the cohort that I've put you in, like if it's a Section 1 cohort, but you're actually in Section 2, or vice versa, or if you realize that what you responded to in the survey was actually incorrect and you need to update that, or if I got it wrong based on what you requested, let me know and I can try to adjust it. I say try, I can't guarantee that I can give everybody what they want as their first choice, because remember, I have to keep those upper limits intact. So I'm close to the limit already on one of the cohorts, so I need to make sure to respect that. Okay, cool. So if you have questions or issues, of course, let me know. Right, so what we're going to do today is 2 things. So I'm going to, well, several, but 2 big things. I want to talk about the first node and take you through the structure of it, show you some of the content, and then I'm going to ask you to work on something together with your cohort in Discord. And you can kind of see what's already happened for Section 1 and you can get the idea, but I'm going to give you a different set of prompts now for Section 2. So don't worry about that just yet. We'll get to it in a minute. But let me first take you through Node 1. And I have not shared this link to you yet. I will sometime this evening, most likely. So be patient with me, please. Thank you for being patient with me. But I want it to be, pretty good. I want to have a lot of content in here. So I'm still working on getting it as clean and as nicely presented and as thorough as possible. But this is I did want to introduce you to the structure of how this node is, how it's organized, and how the other ones likely will be as well. So for each of these nodes, there's a specific topic around which everything is based. Everything that we're doing for the next week and a half is going to be exploring the idea of algorithms, and we're exploring that in several different ways. First of all, looking at the cultural impact, or the ways that people use algorithms to create and define culture. That's really the main thing. But also, we're going to look at it from a programming standpoint, like how do these actually work? How do we do them? Like how do we actually make algorithms? And then how do we, use that knowledge to better understand algorithms that other people have created, or attempts to. And I think one of the things we'll find is that there's often a knowledge imbalance or a power imbalance around algorithms. Algorithms are trade secrets. So Facebook has an algorithm that determines what shows up on your feed. Google has an algorithm that shows up in your search results that determines what shows up in your search results. And those are proprietary. So no one knows what those are unless they work for Facebook or Google, respectively. And that's often the case with algorithms. They tend to be black boxes. But understanding what kind of thing might be in a box, like that. That's kind of what our goal is here. And so there will be a little bit of programming in here, and that's why we're using this notebook environment to do that. Since we are going to be doing a little bit of programming, I thought it made sense to think about programming and try to understand why programming is, why it is what it is, and why it might be a good idea to learn it. I've got some ideas about that. I just mentioned one, but there are others, and there are things that you may already know or believe about code that is going to impact how you learn it, or whether you decide to learn much with it, or whatever. And so this is a moment where we can think about those different experiences we have and different goals we may have for programming, alongside trying to understand how programming becomes part of culture. So that's kind of the long-winded explanation of what this node is about. But let me take you through the actual content of it here. By the way, as I'm talking, if you have questions, feel free to drop them in. Otherwise, you know, I may have to kind of come back to them in a moment or two if I'm kind of on a roll. Let me see. Let me pull up the right set of windows here. Good. Okay. So this notebook, again, I will share this with you, but you don't have access to it yet. But it is a Colab notebook, which is what I introduced you to on Wednesday. That one on Wednesday was very minimalist and really just an introduction to what a notebook is and the different options you have and the kinds of things you can do with it. This is a notebook with a lot of content in it already and more to come, and also a lot more structure. So I want to talk about that structure and take you into the content. So a good place to start here is probably on the left. If you click on this table of contents thing, let's see, make sure I'm out of the way. On the left, you can see, I feel like I'm out of focus. Am I out of focus? I feel like it's like the camera's having a hard time finding me, finding the right depth. Let me see. Sometimes if I open the settings for it, it'll automatically focus better. Okay, well, that's good enough. I'm not important. I'll tell you what, let me make myself a little smaller so it's not as distracting if I end up being out of focus. So this is the notebook, and this is my notebook. And if you click on the table of contents thing, you can see that I've already got a lot of headings and subheadings in here. And I'm trying to use emoji on some of these to make them stand out a little bit better and help you kind of understand the different sections better. But I've tried to be really consistent with top level and then second, third, and fourth level headings to try to organize this as much as possible. And so kind of starting there might be a good way to start navigating this. So this is the title, and then there's an opening section, which is just general information about this notebook. And then I go day by day. So actually I don't want to click on those because I don't want to expand down into them just yet, but I've got some notes for today, for Monday, for Wednesday, for Friday, for Monday, for Wednesday. For each of these, there is an agenda. There's some kind of activity thing going on, and then there's an opportunity for notes. And the notes it's just a cell for you to write notes in. Other cells have different purposes, but I've indicated those with that little notebook icon to say this is a place for you to write. You actually will have edit access to your copy of your notebook, so you can write anywhere you want. I'm just trying to highlight the places where I think it makes sense for you to leave some notes. But you are free to be pretty, creative as far as organizing it if you feel like it. All right, so I guess that's a pretty good overview of the table of contents. I've also, because I've used these hierarchies, the hierarchical headings in a pretty consistent way, hopefully, you can also expand and collapse them. So there's a preamble here. If you click through this to expand, it's pretty long. Maybe you don't want to see that anymore after you've understood what it is. So just click that again and then it's gone. Or it's not gone, but it's hidden. It's not really taking up that much room visually. This is going to end up being a very long document probably. And so I thought it might be helpful to use this hierarchical structure to let you turn off and on different parts of it essentially, to show and hide different parts of it. So in this preamble, this is kind of the text version of the things I just said about the purposes of this notebook and the organizational structure of it. But let me say a little bit more about this. These are indexes to, this is an index of all of the different links and things that you'll find on different days for this node. So the idea isn't that you work through all of these together. It's just that as you work on different things throughout the weeks ahead, this will be a place where, like, if you can remember the name of something, or that you needed a link again, this is going to be where all those are. It's kind of like an index. I might actually just move this to the end because it's not necessarily something you need to see at first anyway. But these are the things that each of the days of this node are going to be drawing from and linking to and using in different ways. So that's the preamble. Really just kind of there to have as a reference, basically. Okay, so then this is Friday and this is today. So this is a pretty typical day of a node. And what we have here are a couple of different things. So we have an agenda where we have things that have happened before now, which is that you have taken a look at the intro notebook. Nothing really specific to do with this one other than know that it exists and there's an invitation to make a copy of it and play around with it. But that's basically just kind of getting some practice with the Colab Notebooks environment. But there's a link to it in case you want to look at it again. Now we have the things during class today. We have a stream today, so there's a link to the stream. You're watching it right now, or perhaps you're watching it in the archive. Both of those links are here in case you need to find those for some reason. And for some reason, if you find the node first, you need to find the stream. That's how you can get to it. And now we will have an activity, and that's what's described here, but let me come back to that in a moment. After class, you have some homework that I'd like for you to do, and you can actually start on this before you have access to this notebook if you'd like, but it shouldn't take too long, so I don't think you have to, certainly. But basically, we're going to be talking a bit about why program and how different people have answered that question, why program. And so I would like for you to answer that question as well for yourself. Why program? Or you could also say why code. It's interesting how that's a synonym, like how when we say programming or we say coding, we're kind of talking about the same thing, and we are. I mean, most people would view those just literally as synonyms. But they do have slightly different implications and context, I think. So if you want to tease that out somehow, you're certainly welcome to. But basically, we're talking about writing code for computer programs. So these are the ideas that we're interested in. So as long as you're addressing those ideas in what you write here, that's fine. What I'm asking you to do is write a manifesto. So a manifesto is a specific genre of document or a kind of an essay where you declare things. And in this case, what I'm asking you to declare are your intentions with programming and your goals with programming. And because this is a class where I have not actually set up a specific threshold for like competency, like I'm not going to say you have to be able to write a program that does X, Y, Z in order to get a good grade in this class. I have not said that. I will not say that. Instead, I want to encourage you to develop your own motivations for programming and for other kinds of things that we're going to be doing with computers as we go. So why do you think programming is important, or why should it be important just to someone like you, or what are the things that you're thinking about? Now, I have a link here to this WikiHow article, which explains in a lot of detail how to write a manifesto. I don't know. I mean, it's kind of cheesy and weirdly detailed. So I don't know how useful it is, but I thought it was just kind of funny that WikiHow has a tutorial for how to write a manifesto. This guy has like a linen, I just noticed this guy has like a linen kind of beard. I wonder if that's on purpose. Okay, interesting. All right, I don't know what these guys are talking about. Anyway, so check that out if you find that helpful. Great. If you find it weird, then don't worry about it. So the point is to write something here in your notebook once you have a copy of it. Once I give you a copy of this to make a copy of once I give you this to make a copy of your own, write your manifesto here. I think a paragraph or two would be great. It doesn't have to be super long, but it should be detailed if possible and aspirational. Like you should be setting yourself some goals that are going to be challenging for you. At the same time, they need to make sense. It needs to be anchored in some kind of application or value that you can articulate here. Of course, I'm going to see these, but think of yourself as the audience for these. Think of what you might think about this in a few months at the end of this semester, because at that point of the semester, I will ask you to go back to your manifestos, see what you wrote, and respond to that. You might have said, I'm going to make sure I do blah, blah, blah by the end of the semester. And then by the end of the semester, you might find out that you did that or that you didn't. And you might want to kind of renegotiate your manifesto for the future. You might want to think in different ways about programming from now on. So basically, it's a way to do a bit of metacognitive work. And we are kind of doing this as a starting point. And then by the end of the semester, perhaps you'll have different ways of thinking about coding. Or maybe not, but that's a place to measure that and to talk about that difference as it develops. So write that here. I will ask you to turn in this notebook eventually, not this manifesto as a specific individual thing, but it'll just be part of this notebook. Okay, then like for each day there's a notes section. If you feel like adding some notes that are not part of the manifesto, then that's the place to put them. Okay, sound good? Now the other thing you should look at, I've done this kind of after before structure because I think it helps me anyway think about like homework versus preparation. And there are a couple things I would like for you to look at before Monday, and I will I'll talk about it now, but I will also link to these in a Canvas announcement probably. But this question of why program, this is something that lots of people have thought about before. And so we're going to look at some of those ways. And there are two in particular that are in Canvas that I'd like you to look at. So you can find it in the Files section in Canvas. And we've got two things here. First of all, Nick Montfort has written a textbook called Exploratory Programming for the Arts and Humanities. It's a book that I've used as a textbook for this class in the past, but I'm not assigning as a textbook that you have to purchase for this class. I'm going to give you excerpts from it, and I believe there will be an open access version of the entire textbook available soon. So, but for now anyway, there's this appendix in that textbook that I think is really interesting. Because as Nick points out in this book, there are lots of ways to learn how to program. Lots of websites, lots of books, lots of YouTube series, and most of those just kind of jump right in. Like you pick up the book and it's like, okay, here's how we get started. Or here's a YouTube tutorial. It's like, fire up your text editor and let's get going. There are not as many places where people think about or reflect on why someone would want to learn to code. They just sort of take it for granted that this is something that is a good thing to do, and then they start doing it. And I think that's understandable. I don't think that's a problem. But we have an opportunity, and I think are called to do more reflective and more thoughtful, philosophical kinds of things in a class like this. And so I'd like for you to think about those kinds of questions here. Like why should I learn how to program, or why should anyone learn how to program? Like what is programming doing? Like why is this a good thing that we should do more of? You know, different ways you could put that question into different contexts, but you've got several examples here of different contexts that Nick Montfort has suggested for answers to that question of why programming. And these are some pretty interesting claims. These are not all what you might think of, and so that's why I want you to read it and see what you think about what Nick Montfort has to say. You might find it really interesting or inspirational, or it might say something or put something into words that you were thinking about but weren't quite sure how to express. I think Nick Montfort does have a really good way of expressing himself, so you might find that useful, or you might just find it completely alienating and strange too. That is also the case for Douglas Rushkoff. Douglas Rushkoff has written a book, actually it's 10 years ago now, called Program or Be Programmed, and it's a book where you can kind of get the sense of the thesis just from the title, Program or Be Programmed. As he says, it's really that simple. That's what he thinks. So I've given you here the introduction to that book, so please read this. It's 15 pages, or if you'd rather, he's got different versions of this as a talk or a lecture that you can find on YouTube, and here's a link to like a 6-minute version of it. So if you'd rather just watch this, you will get the same ideas basically from it. But you know, it might be useful to watch that and then have the PDF as something to refer to if there are specific parts of it you might want to quote or paraphrase in your manifesto. So that's just a thought. Okay, then I will be live streaming again on Monday, and if there's any notes or anything else, I might need to add those. But that's the idea for today and Monday. All right, so I've been talking for a bit. Let me see if there's any questions have come through. It doesn't look like it, so I'm going to move into today's activity or discussion. Let's see, maybe you haven't already started. Okay, good. Okay, so here's what I'd like for us to do. As I said a minute ago, there are lots of ways to learn how to program. And if you Google like how to program, or let's just try it. How to program, how to learn how to program, you will find lots of examples. Great, there's a WikiHow, of course there is. There's also a website called Learn How to Program. Best ways to teach yourself to code. Let's simplify this search phrase. So, how to program, and again, it's a super generic way of expressing it. And you can see, yeah, Codecademy is a very popular way of learning how to code. I guess howtoprogram.it is one. I don't know this one. Of course, Khan Academy is very popular. Oh, okay. Nice. Okay, this looks very, I would say minimalist, but that's okay. It's set to launch sometime in late 2010. So I don't know. It looks like it works. It looks like we're learning JavaScript here. I think. But anyway, that's one I have not seen before, but that's okay. There are lots of these, as I said, and so what I'm interested in you doing now is learning about one of these with your cohort and seeing if you can figure out how that particular platform answers that question, why program. And so for section 1, I gave them Codecademy and code.org and codecombat.org. So I'm going to give you now 3 different ones. So this will be for each cohort to discuss: section 2 Wednesday, section 2 Friday, and then online only. I'm going to give you each a prompt, basically, with a specific platform or website or YouTube channel, or, well, you'll see, to learn about in terms of their mission, in terms of what they say about why programming is important, or a good thing, or whatever it is that it turns out that they have to say about it. So let me post this in here. So section 2 Wednesday, I'm going to give you how about, let me make sure I get the address right. Is this it, or is this it? I guess it's the same. Okay, good. So Black Girls Code. This is I guess it's .com or .org. Looks like the same website. So I will give you the link here in Discord, but that's the one I would like for you to learn a bit about. See what you can learn about see what they say about why someone would want to learn how to program, or should, or whatever, like whatever your word is there. So this is the prompt. See what you can learn about what they have to say about why someone would want to learn how to program. Okay, so let's take a look at Black Girls Code. So section 2 Friday. How about let's see. How about you all? I'll give you all a slightly different one. Actually, and I need to look up the URL for this too as well. So this is a guy I learned from a lot. I find very useful. Oh, good. Okay, he does have his own website. So it's just thecodingtrain.com. It's really a YouTube channel, but he's got a thing here, like an actual domain. So let me link to this and then invite you to take a look at the material created by Dan Schiffman of the Coding Train. So take a look at the Coding Train and see what Dan Schiffman has to say about. And I think he does have collaborators, but it's mainly Dan Schiffman. And see what he has to say about why program. Okay, and then finally, actually, well, you know what would be a different? I just thought of one that might be interesting to try that had not occurred to me before, but let's make sure I have the website right. So you might actually be familiar with Scratch. But it is a platform for people to make stuff, but it's really the original reason that someone, I don't actually know who, the reason why they made Scratch to begin with was in order to teach kids how to program. So take a look at that and see if you can find anything about that. And so this is for the online cohort. And I'm going to just post a little message for you all. Okay, so I just posted that in the online only. There's at least one person there, so you can certainly see what you have to say. Otherwise, everyone else, you know, you should have a cohort that you're part of, and I'm going to keep the stream going, obviously, but you're kind of working on your own now to see what you can figure out about this. And this is something, by the way, I don't know the answers. Like I don't already have a preconceived idea of what you're going to find. You may find something, you may not. Like you may have to read between the lines, or maybe there are no lines to read between. I don't know. So see what you've got. And yeah, just share your answers here in Discord. So as you find something interesting, share it in your channel, and then I will kind of respond and synthesize those on the stream here as you find things. So yeah, see what you can find. Okay. My son's trying to get in the building. Go around, it's locked. All right, so I don't know what he's doing, but he has a really big magnifying glass, and on days like this, he has discovered you can burn things with it. Like you can, hold it up, and then the light concentrates, and then it will start actually catch things on fire. So that's probably what he's up to right now, but hopefully nothing that will cause problems. I mean, he's usually pretty good about not burning things that shouldn't be burnt. He's not interested in burning insects, for example. He usually just wants to see if he can like he melted a bunch of Nerf darts, and that was pretty interesting. It might have been releasing toxic fumes. I don't know. I hope not, but certainly looked cool after he had melted them. So yeah, the other thing that he figured out how to do is, like, if you splash a puddle of water on the driveway, then you can use the magnifying glass and then like concentrate the light to make like a line of dryness in the puddle, and so you can draw with it, sort of, if you move really slowly. It's kind of hard, but it looks really cool when he made like a smiley face with it. It's pretty neat. Okay, great. So looks like in section 2 cohort, looks like a quote from the website. Black Girls Code is an organization that aims to teach coding to specifically young girls of color to increase representation in future STEM careers. Yeah, that's it. So now there's always a question behind an answer, and so I think you are correct that I believe that's a quote from their website. Certainly that's the kind of thing they would say. So let's think about what are some of the other values or ideas that are embedded in that claim. So why is it, for example, that this is a problem that needs to be addressed? Like Black Girls Code is set up to address a problem. So we could talk about that problem. Like, what is the problem that they're trying to solve by creating this particular website? But there are also some implications there. The implication that STEM will be better if it has young girls of color, people who are young girls of color now, but then eventually will be professional women of color. How will STEM be different with them in it? How will they be different in STEM, but not as opposed to somewhere else? How will the world be better if there are more people like that in STEM? Like, those are interesting questions that I think are implied by this claim of value that this website has, but there's some other things behind that too. Like, why is it good to have anyone doing programming? Like, why is programming a thing that anyone needs to do? Like, that's sort of the big question behind all of these. But this one has a much more specific audience, so I think that's pretty good. Oh, great. So looks like Jay Probst in section 2 Friday, you're saying you found a quote from Coding Train, explaining how computational media is different from traditional media, demonstrating an understanding of computer programming and learning how to learn the tools they need to accomplish the projects that interest them in computational media. Okay, I mean, that's a good justification for the Coding Train, right? But like with the Black Girls Code statement, there are things behind this too, right? Like, yeah, so I think the they is the students that learns from his videos. But I guess, what are some of the differences between computational media and traditional media, and why are those important to learn about? And what am I interested in that computational media is going to help me explore? Like, that's not really answered by this statement yet, but it's implied that there is something I'm interested in, and hopefully there is, right? I think in watching and I've watched lots of Coding Train videos. I think Dan Schiffman's one thing he often comes back to is just kind of like fun and just sort of doing it because it's fun to do. And I think that's actually a really good motivator. Like that works for me. Like I agree. It can be really fun to write programming, just to program a project because I had an idea and I wanted to see what it would look like. And like that's great. Like that works for me. That said, I don't often have time to play around like that. And so I usually have to have a reason or a project or like a thing that I'm trying to accomplish with it, or a specific submission like that I'm trying to create. Like there's an online, it's a I guess it's a poetry journal for digital poetry, and so they put out calls every now and then, and they put one out recently, and I was trying to create something that would be sufficient for their call, and it took me a long time. Like ultimately I had to go with the second idea because I had one idea, but I just could not get it to work, and so I went to a second idea, and I'm pretty happy with it. But that sort of it took me a long time, and I was able to justify that time because I was thinking about submitting it for this journal issue, and it got accepted. So happy about that. It's not. It'll be published, I think, in a couple months, but it got accepted. So yay! The journal is called Taper, and the premise is that you have to write digital poetry. So you have to write code that will produce something poetic, and it all has to fit within a particular constraint. They change the constraint every issue, but this issue had to be your code had to be 2 kilobytes or less, which is very small if you're trying to do any kind of multimedia or audio or interactive stuff. 2 kilobytes was very challenging. I actually got it a little bit under 2 kilobytes, but not much. Like I was, I wrote it and got it to work, and it was like 6 kilobytes, and then I was like, what can I compress or minify and take out until I got it down to 2 kilobytes. So it was a really interesting and creative process to do that kind of thing. Yeah. Okay. Okay, interesting. So this is Arrow279. You're talking about P5.js and mathematic properties behind physical things to be able to create a digital world. Okay, that's a good thing, I guess. But why is the digital world? Is the implication that a digital world is better than a physical world, or the idea that understanding mathematical properties of the physical world helps us understand that physical world better? I don't know. I think there's always more, right? There's always more questions. Okay, interesting. So I'm looking at section 2 Wednesday. This is in talking about Black Girls Code, and yeah, there's definitely a digital divide, and so that's a kind of a almost a cliche phrase at this point, but it's actually it's conveniently alliterative, and it is true that especially as we start looking at some of the problems with algorithms, it is true that historically speaking, when you look at who's in the room to actually write the code or design the program, it's historically speaking, it's white men, and I think the demographics are shifting, and I think they're getting better, but they're not good. I mean, it's still very much a white male-dominated industry in space. So it's interesting that's it's interesting, but it's important that sites and projects like Black Girls Code exist. But those projects alone can't solve the problems, but they can help out by pointing to the problem and then helping some people solve the problem, or helping individuals kind of work on that problem. But just kind of the idea of who gets to be in the room when important decisions are being made, I mean, that's a problem that exists in all kinds of areas that aren't just related to code, but I think it's an example of how code and programming really is often is about power, and those who, and this is going back to Rushkoff's kind of paranoid way of putting it, but those who can program and understand the programming are those in a position to benefit from it. If we take Rushkoff seriously, and I don't know, I mean, I put it out here for you all to consider. I don't know if I totally buy into how he says things, but if he's right that those who program have power, I think it's pretty alarming when we look at who doesn't have programming power. And if we look at the statistics that are being quoted about Black Girls Coding from the Black Girls Code website, yeah, it is pretty alarming or disconcerting that there's a specific group of people that disproportionately are denied access to that or don't have access to that power. And so this is great that a website like this exists to do something about that. Yeah. So yeah, I think that one more so than most other websites does a pretty good job of having a point or like explaining why it's important for it to exist. So let's see, how are we doing that time? Oh, we should probably wrap it up soon. Yeah, so I just saw the Twitch chat. Yes, you should type in the Discord chat, but you are so good. And also thanks for the congratulations. Yeah, I don't know if I have a live version. I don't have a good version of it on this computer. I can show you later though. It's actually kind of harrowing, I guess is the right word. The call had to do with poems about or relating to isolation, and like the key phrase for the issue was pent up, as in like we were all kind of pent up in different versions of lockdown or quarantine or whatever during the pandemic, and so it was an invitation to reflect on that experience, that shared experience that we all have right now, vis-a-vis programming. Some code that will do something. And so my poem, which I don't think it'll work on here, but my poem, the idea was I don't know. I don't want to over-explain it, basically. I'll show it to you eventually. I think seeing it live gives it much better, hopefully it works better than me explaining it. So I'll show it to you. I'll share it sometime. Okay. Oh, the blog hasn't been updated for 5 years. I mean, my blog has probably not been updated for 3 years or so. I mean, that's not necessarily an indication that the project has stalled, but I think people find they blog. I don't know. Many people find that they don't blog as much as they used to. Let's see if they tweet, if they've been tweeting. I'll follow them, sure. It looks like they are more active on Twitter, so that is good. Okay, so yeah, so as you see different things, different statements and different ideas about what's important about coding, you're also seeing ideas about what's important in the world and what are the problems that the world has. If people are presenting code as a solution to certain problems, we need to make sure we agree that those are the right problems to solve and that code is the right thing to solve those problems. So there's a lot of things that we can unpack about any of these statements. But in your case, you have to think about what makes sense to you in terms of programming. And you can also talk a bit about, where did I go? As you write your own answer to this question, why program, you might want to talk a bit about whatever your experience has been. Like if you've had some experience coding, you might already have a sense of what's important about it or what's good about it, or maybe not. Maybe you have been programming for a while if you're a computer science major, and you're kind of sick of it, or you don't see the point of it, or whatever. Like that could be an important thing to acknowledge in writing a manifesto like this as well. If you've tried coding and found it alienating and frustrating, that's something that you might want to talk about here as well. I would hope that I can help you move beyond that or get to a point where you feel more comfortable with programming, and so that might be something that you could aspire to in writing your manifesto. So yeah, I don't know. It's very open-ended, so don't feel beholden to the suggestions that I'm making. I'm really just trying to help you get started. So whatever you think is going to help you orient your goals and think about your goals, that's what I would like for you to write here and what I'd like to see eventually. Right? I'm not going to actually see these for a while, but you're welcome to share them in Discord if you want to, or discuss them in Discord with your cohort, or just in the general channel. If you want some feedback on them, or kind of to see if other people are thinking the same things, you're certainly welcome to. But as far as turning it in, you don't need to turn it in yet. So yeah. All right, well, I've been going about 50 minutes or so, so I should probably wrap things up. I'm trying to make sure I've covered everything. I think so. The main thing, obviously, is just I'm going to complete this node and then share this notebook with you in a Canvas announcement, along with a couple other links to get you ready for Monday. But it shouldn't be too much work to get ready. I mean, it'll be work for me, but not too much for you, I hope. Okay, let's see. Any other questions? If you have any questions, as you can tell, I'm starting to wrap things up, so this would be your last chance to get them in. By the way, if you can think of, if you know of any system or setup or thing that I can do to stream video in a way that everyone can see it pretty well, let me know. This idea of a watch party, I guess, is a term that people use. If there's Yeah, if you can think, if there's any way I can do this in Discord, that would be great. But if there's some other system that might be able to do that as well, then let me know. This is something where like I could, with my Netflix, I'll just say with my Netflix subscription, broadcast what I'm watching so you can watch it too. Like that's the goal, basically. Like what I would do in the classroom, I would log into my Netflix account and we would watch it there. So if you can think of something, let me know, and I may be doing some more experimenting in Discord, so you may see me do that. And if you happen to be online when I'm doing that and you can check it out as I do it, that would be great. That would help me test it out. So yeah, so Ham, that's what I did earlier. I was in the voice chat, and then I made a separate voice channel as a test, and then I attempted that, but the audio didn't work, and I should probably just see if there's a setting I missed in terms of how to get the audio into that. But that's probably, I think that's the idea in that tutorial that I found, that you are streaming using the voice channel plus video, but it didn't work the way I tried it. So I'm gonna keep experimenting, I think. Okay, well, thanks for the suggestion. I will certainly try that. Okay, well, I'm gonna wrap up the stream. Thanks for watching, everyone, and keep an eye out for an announcement from me with a link to this notebook so you can make a copy of it. I guess if you're really, looking closely, you could actually type in this long URL for it, and you could get early access to it. But just don't do that. But don't worry, I will send it to you soon. Okay, great. Well, otherwise, yeah, have a good weekend. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you, or you'll see me on Monday with another stream. So, bye.